The lynch black body is different from black lynch victims. Lynch victims were flesh and blood individuals who suffered at the hands of a white lynch mob. But the lynch black body are representations. They are representations of black lynch victims that are created by black artists, black writers for narrative discourse. And so in my book, Beyond the Rope, I try to tell the story of how African American writers, African American people have used the lynch black body to make sense of their experience of lynching. And so I try to talk about how over time African Americans have used and deployed the lynch black body in a variety of ways. And so I try to tell that story in the book. African Americans have understood the lynch black body in a variety of ways. So they've understood black lynch victims as victims of white lynch mob violence. And so in those kinds of narratives, they emphasize how African Americans were helpless or hapless victims of white violence. But African Americans have also understood black lynch victims as heroes, and they created heroic narratives, or what I call consoling narratives, of the lynch black body. And these narratives really emphasize the ways in which African Americans fought back against their oppression, how African Americans, whether individually or collectively, resisted through armed struggle, through armed violence, lynch mob violence. And so there's a number of ways in which African Americans have made sense of the lynch black body, but those are the two primary ways. Absolutely. This is probably the question that I get the most. And the reason why I took on the project, because I was convinced that in many ways Americans only conceive of, black Americans, white Americans, as well as scholars, only conceive of black lynch victims as victims of lynching. But there is absolutely a long record of African Americans having different reactions, different traditions of understanding the lynch black body. And so one of the things I wanted to highlight with the book is that the lynch black body as victim is not timeless. There have been many other ways in which African American lynch victims have been understood. The other part of it is I really wanted to emphasize in the book that part of the thing that African Americans were trying to accomplish in conceiving of, let's say, the lynch black body as heroic was they were trying to overcome the trauma of lynching, the suffering, the pain that lynching inflicted on black people. And so conceiving of lynch victims in ways that were heroic or empowering was a way to overcome the violence, the oppression, the suffering that lynching wrought on black lives. The lynch black body absolutely remains an important symbol in many ways. And you know, lynching as a historical practice occurred over about 60 years, 60 to 70 years, and we are only about 30 years or 40 years since that practice has ended. And so it's definitely still a viable, potent symbol. And we see it in a variety of ways. Even if we just look at the Black Lives Matter movement, many of those activists argued that the police killings of African Americans are modern day lynchings. And so I think it's an example of how black Americans today are reappropriating the image of lynching, the symbol of lynching, for contemporary political purposes. And so absolutely the lynch black body remains a potent symbol, and it probably will remain a potent symbol for many years to come.